Good evening. Ah, man, what the fuck? All right, let me fix this bullshit. What up? Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me okay? I still feel like the audio... Oh, no. What is happening here? Oh, no. Hang on now. Properties. Okay. Yeah, it's probably about as good as we're gonna get. I don't know what's going on. The audio just feels a little weird to me in the new setup a little bit here. But anyway, what is up, everybody? Does it sound robotic to you guys at all? Am I crazy? Am I crazy, or does this sound a little bit robotic? Maybe it's the maybe it's some of the other stuff I have going on in here. I'm not really sure. You're crazy. Oh, it sounds fine. Okay. All right. I'm a little sweaty. I just got back from the gym. I took a shower, but it was one of those things where I'm still a little bit sweaty somehow. It's kind of weird. But anyways, what is up, everybody? Welcome into a little Warhammer stream. I thought, something I wanted to do, basically because... obviously I'm super into Warhammer, and I've been talking about it a lot. We did the stream the other day, which kind of just, I just kind of yapped about Warhammer, why I thought it was so dope, why I thought it was taken over. I figured we would take a moment to do something that basically every single person when they're getting into Warhammer does, and that's kind of like learn about the factions and decide which army they want to rock with. Now, on one level, it's like, sure, if you're going to actually build models and play the game, that's one thing. And you definitely want to keep more of like the game and the model stuff in mind. But even if that's like a faraway thing, or you don't know if you're ever going to get with that kind of thing, you'd still probably want to learn about the factions, and you still probably want to kind of learn which ones would you gravitate towards and which ones would you not. And it's just like a cool part of the fandom in general, kind of learning about it. Some of the memes in the community will make more sense if you understand more about the factions, etc., etc. So that's what we're going to do, man. I don't have a script. I don't have a plan. This is really just kind of like a bonus stream just for members of the community that are either into Warhammer or are that Warhammer curious, and that's kind of what tonight's about. So we're going to do a ton of different things. I'll kind of break it down from my perspective. We'll look at some cool art. Maybe we'll look at some videos. I'll talk to you about my experience in the game. We'll look at some cool models, etc., etc. That's the game plan for tonight. Just getting into a little Warhammer zone for you guys. I don't know how long we'll go. Maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I do want to go watch Alien Earth, so I'm actually pretty fucking excited to go watch Alien Earth. So definitely want to get into doing that. So we'll see. But yeah, how are you guys doing? What's up? Any questions right off the rip, or do you want me to just kind of get into the yappening? How's the day? And also, of course, yes, I gotta pat myself down because the schvet. God, I'm just so schvetty. I planned this poorly. Oh shit, we have plenty of dope nerdy stuff to get into tomorrow. God damn it, dude. This, when the audio is a little fucked up like this, it like makes me like slur my words and shit because I hear myself. I might just turn that off, to be honest. I don't want to fucking slip all over my words because of goddamn stupid bullshit. So we'll just turn that off. Just, you guys can hear me okay, right? Yeah, what I was saying was we have a lot of cool stuff to get into tomorrow. There's more Spider-Man stuff. There's some DC stuff. The Brainiac thing's crazy. There's maybe even potentially a little bit of Star Wars stuff we get into too. So tomorrow should be fun. We'll have a good stream tomorrow morning. How was the family day at the beach? Oh, it was cool, man. It was really fun. Good to hang out, see my buddy, get the kids together, hang out in the sun a little bit. I will say it was hot as fuck, and I'm definitely not used to touching grass, so I almost melted in the sun a little bit. I was like, holy shit, is this what it's like when you're a real boy, when you're out and about and the sun's beaming down on you? Oh my fucking god. What beach? So I live next to a kind of like a pretty cool national park called Presque Isle, and it's actually like this big. It's like it's a peninsula, but it covers most of the bay. And it's just like this huge fucking landmass that has a whole bunch of sandy beaches on it. So like randomly, uh, in northwestern PA, there's a ton of sandy beaches, literally like less than 5 minutes away from us. So it's kind of cool. Liam will probably grow up as a little bit of a beach bum. That's literally how close we are to it. The sun, it burns us. I know, right? There's something to everyone in 40K. I agree. There is something to everyone. There is also something for everyone as well. What's the hammer? What do you mean? Like in Warhammer? Well, there are Warhammers in Warhammer, and they're usually pretty prestigious. I wonder if that's where it comes from. I feel like somebody explained this to me one time, but there are definitely like Warhammers, obviously, and they're still cool in the game. There's also something on everyone in 40K. That is true. That is true, especially when you get into some of the chaos shit. Yeah. What is the thread? What does that mean? I don't know what that means. What is your least favorite faction then? I don't know. That's a good question. I've listened and watched Imperial Iterator on YouTube, all his Blood Angels and Sanguinius Dante lore, but realize he uses AI voice of an old British guy. Could be wrong. Yeah, there might be some of that out there. I don't really know. But yeah, the Blood Angels and Dante Sanguinius, those are all really interesting characters for sure. We'll get into it all. I thought it was because there is only war. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I actually don't know why they decided to call it that, or if it has any relevance to the actual Warhammers or not. But which faction will get me laid? Ooh, that's a good question. So there's a couple of ways to think about this. It would be like, which faction maybe are more of the ladies into? I don't know. Maybe that's a move. Or is it like, who's like the Giga Chads, the best faction in Warhammer? That's interesting. I don't know. I would, the basic answer is all of them. So as long as you get into Warhammer in any way, your chances of impressing ladies and getting laid goes up like 300% or something. You can quote me on that. Is Warhammer just edgy Star Wars? No, I mean, it's certainly, I could see how you could maybe perceive it that way. It definitely feels a lot edgier than anything that's in Star Wars, but no. It's much more like high fantasy, akin to like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. There's some Star Wars similarities, but you know what's funny is like, so Star Wars actually has pretty advanced space tech, and their space battles and their fighter craft are actually fairly advanced. In Warhammer, everything's like, even though it's very advanced, it's also kind of archaic and not advanced. So like the way they have these huge advanced battle cruisers, but then they literally just drive past each other like they used to on open sea battles, on Earth or whatever. So they're actually not that advanced in that way. But there's actually a lore reason for that, and that's because all of the technology gets lost in the dark age of technology, and then the cult that runs all the tech in Warhammer is actually, they're religious, and they're zealots, and they're against advancement. So to advance science, like, get over here. Man, she has just been so whiny, and she needs a lot of scratchies. If she's like way too much in here, I'll put her back in the house. But yeah. Oh, thanks, Mike. Appreciate you, man. Summer release, especially after Leia scare. Yeah, for sure. Having a bit of a Ford Fantastic Four or Soup's not sure which Warhammer army would work. Oh man, that's tough. Yeah, things are really tough for people out there, so I totally get it. Well, what's cool about Warhammer is, I think, especially at the start of it, you can just get into it for free just by watching lore videos, engaging in the community and stuff like that. There's a plethora. It's like this whole crazy world And before I even bought a single model, I think I watched content on the game and the lore for like over a year before I even got into it. So yeah, that's what I would say. Do we have to work out and get jacked before becoming a Warhammer enjoyer? No, but it would help. It would just be good for you. To be honest, you got me Warhammer curious. Oh, nice. Okay, so I guess we should kind of get into this. So when approaching this question, which just out of curiosity, how many of you are thinking about starting an actual army? Like you're actually gonna maybe get some models, paint some models. Maybe you already have. How many of you are already there where you're army building? Throw a one in. Mike, you literally just said that you can't even afford movie tickets. You better not be starting an army, goddammit. If I can ever afford it, yes. Gotcha. Which armies are free? Oh, there's none of them are free. They all cost you a lot. I can tell you what the cheapest armies are, but it's still a lot by many metrics. Okay, so we got some people kind of interested. So what I would say again is like it really depends on how you're approaching this question. If you are going to actually build an army, I would just recommend taking your time on making that decision. Like once it's not to say that you couldn't switch. Okay, so maybe you buy like a little bit of one army and you decide you don't like it and then you want to jump into something else. That's totally fine. But I would say you want to spend a good bit of time thinking about this. And also, above everything else, you got to go with the rule of cool and what resonates with you. Okay, so in terms of the actual gameplay of Warhammer and like which armies are best, that changes wildly. Now, are there a lot of armies that tend to do very well in a lot of editions? Yes. But it's all over the place. So just as an example, as a Custodes player, at the start of 10th edition, which I guess was like 2 years ago now, we were fucking incredible, like busted, like way too crazy good. Then they hit us with a ton of rules changes, and for about 6 months, we were fucking ass, dude. Like unplayable garbage. It was fucking depressing, okay? Then, after waiting for 6 months, we got our codex, and guess what? We literally got worse. There was like one thing, one detachment that was like okay. They ended up changing a lot of stuff. Recently, Custodes have kind of gotten to a place where they're playable due to a new detachment and some points drops, but they're still not operating like the upper levels or whatever. My other army, Dark Angels, despite getting a ton of new rules, still kind of suck ass. Like, to be honest with you, like they're playable, and you can, if you're pretty good, like you could still win a tournament with Dark Angels 100%, but you're probably not going to be able to win like a top level event versus really good players with that army. They just don't have it like that, right? So I say all that just to say that like you should really go with what you're going to enjoy and what seems cool to you, because the only way you're going to be able to make it through these dark times where it feels like your army sucks balls and they're literally you don't even like want to play is if you really love the army, because that way you can still get new models, you could still try new painting things, you could still read new novels, you know what I mean? Like you could still be into the hobby. Whereas like if you just pick something because you think it's going to be really, really powerful, yeah, don't do that. That's a really silly way to do it. The next question I would ask is, yes, which way do you want to enjoy the lore? Which way do you want to enjoy the hobby? Are you going to paint mostly? Are you going to play mostly? Are you not going to paint? Like, these are all considerations. These are things you can want to think about. So, like, for instance, if you want to paint, I could see you being more attracted to Chaos. I could see you being more attracted to something like Tau, simply because the ways you could paint those models get really crazy. And there's like a lot of really fun things you can do with that. And I know this a little bit because so I play mostly, well, I play all Imperial stuff, but I have realized that a lot of the Imperial Space Marine stuff, especially if you just paint the standard, heavy metal GW way, it's kind of boring. Like you can do cool stuff with it, and I do cool stuff with it, but there's just not, it's nowhere near as cool as like Chaos, right? Because you can have like tusks and horns and demon fire and tongues, and some of them have like rotting flesh and all this stuff. So like the painting is a factor, right? So you just got to think about how are you feeling about the hobby? Like what kind of way do you think you would engage with it? And I think that's also going to be a determining factor, right? If you're just painting, or if you really think painting is a big part of the draw for you, the range, meaning what models are in each army, is an important detail. So you might end up looking at a lot of things. So this is one of the reasons I was first attracted to the Necrons, is because they just look so fucking cool, dude. And it's not just like the basic Necron shit, because I think the basic aesthetic is dope, like metal skin, green energy, like that's fucking cool. But like you look at some of their what you would call centerpiece models, bro, like the Silent King, the Catans, like holy shit, they just look so cool. Here, I'll pull up some of them to show you what I'm talking about. And this was a big factor for me when I was first getting into it. I was like, dude, Necrons are fucking cool as shit. And they really are. So here, I'll just pull up some of this shit so you can look at it. Like, look at this model here. And this is even just the box art. Oh, it's going to pull up the Amazon shit. Look at this thing, man. Like, it's got those two pillars. Look at all that detail and the way you could do the energies. And, like, I was dead ass. Honestly, guys, the Silent King was almost the first Warhammer model I bought. I didn't know shit about the game. I didn't know a goddamn thing about a goddamn thing. And almost bought Silent King because I was like, this dude looks fucking dope. And that's a factor. Like that. Oh, look at this Catan, man. Like the Catan, this thing looks so cool, dude. Oh my god. And this was a part of the Magic the Gathering stuff, so it got me really interested in it. So I would say you should really think about what army looks cool. Like, is there something about it that resonates with you? And obviously the lore is a part of it too, right? So you want to learn about the lore with each faction, which we'll get into a little bit. But I would suggest this is something to think about. Also, like maybe you just want to read. That's a factor as well, because you should look at what books are the best. Like, for instance, so my buddy plays like Chaos Demons, right? And Chaos Demons are dope. The problem is there's actually not a lot of Chaos Demon like lore. Like, he can't really go out and get novels in the same way that I can. Hey, Warhammer Heresy, appreciate you, brother. Thanks for the gifted. Do you know what I'm saying? And so that could be a consideration. Like, it would be very difficult if you're like, I want to learn about Be'lakor and the Chaos Demons, and you just want to read the books. Yeah, that's not really a thing. Most of the books are from the perspective of the Imperials. There are a lot of Trader books, mostly to do with the Primarchs or the Trader Space Marine Legions. But that's potentially a factor. Okay, so with all of that said, after you think about how you want to approach the hobby, I think the next thing to think about is, do you want to play a Imperial faction? Do you want to play a Xenos faction? Or do you want to play a Chaos faction? This is like the next big question, right? Pull up the Nightbringer. Nightbringer, so cool. I think I showed him before on streams, but yeah, he's fucking awesome. Dude, what is going on with my monitor over here? Night Hunter. So cool. Dude, look at just the oh my god, this looks so fucking good here. This little painted. Is that a Korax right there? That is cool, man. Sorry, you guys can't see any of this. These are just some of the Night Lord models. Like, dude, look at this. Oh my fucking god, that model is. That's like disgustingly cool. And then this is like a grimdark version of it, which I like grimdark. I usually paint grimdark. Oh man, that is fucking cool as shit. Oh my god, look at this one. Damn. Oh my god, look at that. That's like a Valdor, right? That's like Valdor shit. Whoa, so cool. Oh my god, look at this one. All right, anyway, damn, that's fucking cool, man. That's fucking cool. All right, anyway. Getting a little lost in the sauce. Sorry, what the fuck? My fucking monitor over here, man. Ah, it's so annoying. No. All right, anyway. The point is, after you've thought about how you want to approach the hobby, the next thing you got to think about is, are you going to play Imperial? Are you going to play Chaos? Or are you going to play Xenos? Do you think Valdor is the Emperor's biological son? No, but that's cool. Mr. Jazz says, off topic, but does it feel like Doomsday is more about blah, 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 sharing the screen than about Doom? For everything you heard, it seems like it won't be cool Doom shit in the end. Thoughts? Much love, bro. Yeah, I'll talk about this tomorrow, brother. I'm not going to go into it right now. I appreciate the 20 spot. If you remind me, I'll go into this all tomorrow. Yeah, we'll see. I actually wrote a video today. It's actually a banger script. I haven't recorded it yet, but it all has to do with like Steve Rogers and how I think that with Doom, like I think they're cooking some really cool shit. Oh, the Nightbringer Catan. I'm sorry, I read Night Hunter. By the way, the Night Lords are in this image with the fucking Necrons here, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, Mr. Jazz, I'm not gonna get into all that in this stream, man. We're talking Warhammer here. Sorry. Yeah, so then you got to think about, do you want to be Imperial, do you want to be Chaos, or do you want to be Xenos? Now, there's no, like, good guys in Warhammer, right? Like, that's kind of a meme in the community, is there's no good guys. And technically the Imperium, which I guess you could say are the good guys, the Imperium most of the time fights themselves, which is kind of crazy. But that's what it is, and that's why it's Warhammer. Like, a lot of the lore was developed so that any scenario you wanted to play out in your little battles or whatever would be explainable within the lore. And that includes like a bunch of the human factions not trusting each other, turning on each other, tons of civil war, all kinds of crazy shit like that. But with that said, you do have to think about what kind of a faction do you want, right? Because and at first this doesn't seem like, it seems like obvious, like yeah, because I got to pick a faction. Every faction is within, one of these categories or whatever. But it's actually worth thinking about in a little bit more of detail, especially if you're actually going to play the game, okay? Because one way to play the game is in what's known as a crusade. And a crusade is kind of like a long form version of Warhammer that has like a narrative to it. When you have a crusade or you play in a narrative play, you will have to play with your faction. There's some like ways around this, and there's always like the rule of cool, and like, like a shop owner or whatever who's running the campaign can make it work either way. But it is worth thinking about because, like, so for instance, right? I play mostly Imperial stuff. And if I were to play, so like my best buddy, he plays demons and he plays sisters. Okay. But I would not, this is going to sound so nerdy, but that's what it is. Like Warhammer is very nerdy. I would not play a like 2 versus 2 with his demons. Like, does that make sense? Like, because the demons would not team up with the Dark Angels or the Custodes. Right? Like, so these are things to think about. So whenever I talk to my buddy about playing like a 2 versus 2 or like going to do a campaign or something, I always talk about his sisters because his sisters of battle are Imperial. My Imperial dudes can play with his Imperial dudes, and it's all good, right? So that's like a consideration. Also, once you go down this path, it will probably make sense to stay within one of those wider factions, meaning like Imperial, Chaos, or Xenos. And there's like utility reasons why. Okay, so like for instance, so I play Custodians and Dark Angels. I have a Caladius Assassin, who is so fucking awesome, and then I have a Inquisitor, Draxus. Okay, I actually will go get both the models because they're so fucking cool. I'll go get them. I want to show you them. But the point is this: I can run them as allied units, and I can run them as allied units in either one of my Imperial armies. And the Caladius Assassin, Bianca, thank you for the 5 gifted. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. The Caladius Assassin is really fucking good. So I have her in almost all my both my armies. Like anytime I build a list, I usually have the Caladius Assassin. So does that make sense? Like there's a utility thing here. So like if I wanted to get a Titan or get a Knight, an Imperial Knight, it's like a big ass mech, right? If I got one, I would be able to put it on either one of my armies. Like I'd be able to play my Imperial Knight on my Custodes team. I'd be able to play my Imperial Knight on my Dark Angels team. If I had a Xenos army, like a Tau army, which I am probably going to get a Tau army next, actually. But if I had a Tau army and then I had a Dark Angels army, if I buy an Imperial Knight, I can only ever use it with my other Imperial army, right? So there's like a utility kind of a thing here. And it kind of just ends up being the case that whenever you make this decision, you usually branch out kind of with it. It's almost like a skill tree. Like you kind of branch out within that space. So like, for instance, my buddy that plays Sisters of Battle is thinking about getting a knight for his army. And then for his demons, he's recently started branching out and getting some Chaos Space Marines because you can run some Chaos Space Marines for his demon army. Right? So, like, this is just something that you basically want to think about. The Imperials are, like, kind of like the good guy. Chaos is all of the demons, and it's all of the traitor Space Marine legions. And again, the benefits there are it looks really wicked cool. You know, you could make fun of all the Imperial players, which is kind of fun. And the Xenos are all pretty unique. They're all pretty unique, and they're either doing their own thing, they have their own societies, armies, militaries, and they have their own considerations in the galaxy. Okay, so with all of that said, which one should we start with? Should we start with the Xenos? Should we start with the Chaos? Or should we start with the Imperium? The traders are also right. That dude's a heretic. Get him out of here. Which one do you guys want to start with? And I'm going to go get a Wata. Oh my goodness. Astartes. Xenos. Imperium. Oh my gosh. Space Marines. Okay, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Luton started with Necrons. That's interesting. The Necrons are dope. I mean, technically they're the oldest. I don't know. They're older than the Eldar, that's for sure. All right, I'll be right back, guys. No. Okay, let's see if you can even see these things. The camera's kind of bad for this kind of stuff. Let's see here. Hey, you can't really see her though. That's my Inquisitor. She's got a little dragon, which is pretty chill. I painted her myself. She's really cool. And then this is the Caladius Assassin. You can not see her. She's like tiny. She's badass though. Got a crazy sword. Crazy sword doing crazy sword shit. She real cool. But yeah, these are Imperial agents technically. Yeah, and I play them on the Imperial armies. Any plans to read some Horus Heresy books? They kick ass. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I'm at least gonna. There's actually like a number of them that I want to read, like Master of Mankind. I've heard is incredible, and then the one with Sanguinius at the end I've heard is incredible. The first three I've heard read like a really cool trilogy, so I want to check that out. I skipped ahead and did a bunch of the End and the Death, which I've found to be incredible, but very dense and very all over the place. Jesus Christ, these dogs. Oh no, Leia, no, you don't you do it too. Don't you do it too, you little conehead. No, you little conehead, you can't. You're not ready for all that. I think she gets her stitches out on Thursday though, which is kind of cool. Do you have any Caladius assassins? Yeah, dude. This is my Caladius. Which is so funny because like the Calidus is Calidus and Caladius, are they different? Because I know, dude, oh my fucking god, dude. I should have kennelled them. I should have just kennelled them. Bunch of little buttholes. A bunch of little buttholes. Do you have any Cornelius Fudge? Yeah, of course. Cornelius Fudge is the best. Okay, let's get into it. Let's start. I guess we'll start with Space Marines. That's what you guys wanted to start with. So you have obviously just your basic Astartes. These are the poster boys of the Space Marine legions. Oftentimes you'll see them depicted in blue. That's basically the Ultramarine colors. They're super soldiers and they're awesome. So the way it works, if you wanted to play Space Marines, you would probably pick a chapter. And there's like the founding chapters. Dude, this shit's gonna get so complicated so fast. But basically, there's a ton of different kinds of Space Marines, okay? Including traitor legions, right? Space Marines that are traitors and chaos and evil. But let's just keep it simple and focus on the ones in the Imperium. You know, I guess you would say if you were attracted to just the Space Marines themselves, you know, a lot of the lore and also the material like Space Marine 2, the video game, and a lot of the cinematics obviously show how badass the Astartes are. So maybe you saw like the Secret Lair episode or just some of the cinematics and you're like, yo, these Space Marine dudes are pretty fucking badass. If you like them, then yeah, I would take like a closer look at what is the lore of the Space Marines, you know, what is the different factions, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll go through a couple of them right now. So you've got the Black Templars. Now, the Black Templars are fucking awesome, dude. They just got a new codex. They just got a new set of rules. They are religious zealots, and they are technically a successor chapter of the Imperial Fists. Okay, so quick TLDR lore lesson on this. Back in the day of the Horus Heresy, all of the Space Marines were a part of legions. Okay, so these things were massive groups of Space Marines, and each one basically had the gene seed of their Primarch. And so the Imperial Fist, whose Primarch was Rogel Dorn, they were super badass, and they're most known for like siege warfare and the ability to like fortify their position. They were very important during the literal siege of Terra, which lasted 55 days at the end of the Horus Heresy. And essentially, what happens, guys, is after the Horus Heresy, which is this big civil war, Gilliman, who kind of becomes like Lord Regent, he's in charge of everything. He's like, yo, we cannot let anybody have that much power anymore. So he splits up all of the big legions, which some of them had like hundreds of thousands of space marines, which is crazy because like they're crazy super soldiers, right? So these were just incredible military forces. He also splits off like the Imperial Navy and makes that its own thing, disconnected from each Space Marine chapter. Anyway, the point I'm making here is the Black Templars were a group of Imperial Fizz that basically said, fuck Gilliman, fuck this restriction, fuck the Codex Astartes. We're going to forever crusade. And because they take these oaths to forever crusade, it like supersedes the Codex Astartes. It's like a loophole, basically. And so they don't only keep 1,000 members. They have like potentially tens of thousands, if not 100,000 different Space Marine chapters. They're religious zealots. So you probably notice a lot of the iconography and looks like literal, you know, the Crusades and the Knights Templar and all that sort of stuff. That's intentional. They were founded by a Space Marine called Seasman, and Seasman was actually a religious zealot even during the Crusade. So even during the Crusade, Seasman was he was a zealot and he thought the Emperor was a god. And Rogel Dorn was kind of like, bro, you can't be doing that. Like this is a fucking problem. But at the same time, Seasman's faith in the Emperor allowed him to like be a super badass, and that made it kind of like okay. So Dorn was kind of like, all right, like you can do all that. Anyway, point is, all of the people that felt the same way as this dude end up forming the Black Templars. So that's the Black Templars. That's kind of like their look. Here, I'll pull up more images of what they look like. As far as memes are concerned, they're kind of considered the most racist and the most brutal of all the Space Marine chapters. Oftentimes, you'll see a lot of people kind of giving Black Templar players shit and saying they're sus and all of that sort of stuff. And I think part of the reason is why is because, so within the context of, oh, dude, this is some really cool old school Black Templars art. Oh my God, look at that shit. Where's the good image of that? Why did it do that? What is happening here? Look at that, dude. That is fucking cool. Oh, that's not the Black Templars. Where's the Black Templar, John? The fuck? This is cool, man. Yeah, so they're kind of known as like the most xenophobic or the most racist of all of the Space Marine groups because the vows they take, like basically like this is what it is. They took these vows to never fucking rest as long as there was a single enemy of the Emperor out there. And they identify the alien as a threat, the Xenos, right? Which all Space Marines and the entire Imperium doesn't fuck with the aliens, right? Some are a little bit more open to it than others, like, you know, Gilliman, technically the Blood Angels and stuff. But the Templars, they don't fucks with that. Another thing that's kind of interesting about the Templars is they don't have wizards. They don't have librarians. They do have like some astropaths and some people like that. But they literally like don't fucking trust anybody that uses the warp. Right. And this makes them kind of difficult to work with a lot of the other chapters because the librarians and, you know, using the warp and stuff, it's pretty commonplace, especially in modern 40K. So that's something to think about. If you're so if any of this sounds cool to you, right? I think at the end of the day, you got to kind of say like, okay, what looks cool? What sounds cool? Like, what am I resonating with? Some people think the Black Templars are awesome because they're so hardcore. Some people think it's funny that, you know, they're basically such religious zealots that they won't even work well with the other Space Marine chapters. They don't fucks with the librarians. They don't fucks with aliens at all. Some people like their attitude of basically saying "fuck you, Gilliman," like we're not gonna restrict our shit. Some people just like the way they look. They're badass, you know. So that's the Black Templars. Anybody anybody feeling a Black Templars in it? It's a safe space. You can talk about the Black Templars if you like. All right, next up, let's look at the Blood Angels. This was almost my first army. I love the Blood Angels, dude. I love the Blood Angels. So they're super cool. Let me pull up some Blood Angel Pinterest iconography kind of stuff here. So the Blood Angels were a chapter that was chosen, and they're kind of like, the memes are that they're artists. So they did practice art. They had a reverence for beauty. They themselves actually were said to look a lot more normal and more beautiful than a lot of the other counterpart Space Marines. This is in some of the lore. It's kind of interesting because they're vampires, which makes sense. Like, vampires were always seen in most fiction. Vampires are seen to be kind of like, fair and have like a sort of weird attractiveness to them, right? A grace, if you will, right? And that, oh, that's an inner circle companion there. That's a Blood Angels thing, and that is cool, right? And some people speculate that Blood Angels, and maybe even like the Emperor's children as well, were actually created by the Emperor for not just for war, but for what would come after the Crusade, where humanity would be led in a lot of ways by the Astartes. So there's some theories about like them and the Emperor's children and how they looked a little bit more normal and were a little bit more relatable to humans and stuff like that. It's kind of interesting. The Blood Angels then, like, where does the vampire shit come from? So all the Space Marines have genetic abilities to be incredible warriors. One of the abilities they have is they can eat the flesh of a fallen enemy. Okay. And when they do this, they receive some of the memories of their enemy. This is a tactical thing. Okay. But the genes that control that can become mutated. And that is what happened to the Blood Angels. The Blood Angels gene seed has this mutation, which makes it so, beyond just using that as a tactical ability, they crave blood, and they actually thirst for it in much the same way that vampires do in traditional fiction. And dude, this ends up operating in a whole bunch of different ways. So one of the really cool things about the Blood Angels is they have different successor chapters that have different ways of dealing with this bloodthirst. One of the chapters, and I forget which one it is, but they have this, once a year they have this like ball or this big gala where all the elites and nobles come from that planet, and then they slaughter them all and just for one night just drink like pure bloodlust and just satiate themselves completely, like once a year, and then they can keep it under control for like the rest of the year and shit like that. So there's a lot of cool lores within that. I would say from a tabletop perspective right now, especially, they feel like a very melee focused army. I probably should have said this with the Templars. What you'll find with the Templars is they're going to do cool stuff with like gimmicks of faith. So, they're going to have standard stat lines of a lot of your different Space Marine units, and they're probably going to do like interesting, fun rules that have to do with their faith and just being super badasses and shit like that. So that's kind of like with the Templars. With the Blood Angels, they have some really fun elite units. So like this guy that you're seeing here, this is either Dante, it's probably Dante, or it's the Sanguinaire, or a member of the Sanguinary Guard. So they have a group of select heroes that are like super elite that wear golden armor. They fly. They wear the face of Sanguinius. They all have little chalices of apparently like blood from the actual Sanguinius, like the Primarch, and they're super badass. So they have really cool elite units. They have some really cool psyker units, like Mephiston is a really fun psyker unit for them. And yeah, so like that's kind of the basics of the Blood Angels. I like them a lot. I think vampires are cool. They have a really interesting Primarch, but their Primarch is dead. Okay, so their Primarch is dead, which I don't know. For some people, it's a factor. For some people, it's not a factor, right? But yeah, so that's the Blood Angels. Let me know if you have any questions about them. All right, next up, Dark Angels. I'll try to keep this brief because this is my army, and I could gush about them a lot, you know. So I'll try to keep that this part brief here. The Dark Angels are the first chapter of Space Marines. They were, or Legion and chapter. They were created before all the other Space Marines. They have an Arthurian knight kind of a motif, and this is sort of the reason this is twinfold. Like, number one, they were the early adopters of like the Angels of Death iconography, and the idea of Space Marines is just inherently like kind of like being a knight. So early Dark Angels, separate from Caliban and the Lion, were already kind of knightly. But then this is emphasized on Caliban, so their homeland planet, or where the Lion, their Primarch, lands, is literally like medieval. They had all these monsters in the forest that were mutated by chaos. They had like castles and a lot of armored knights on their home world. So like when the Lion finds his legion, he like merges all of their stuff together, and the knightly orders and the Astartes orders kind of merge. The Dark Angels, like the memes are that they're known for being paranoid, keeping secrets. You know, a lot of people call them traitors because at the end of the Horus Heresy, a bunch of their people turned on the Lion and the Imperium. They didn't actually turn to Chaos. They were tricked by Chaos, and they didn't like turn to support Horus, but they did like turn against the Emperor. And this is a thing for the Dark Angels. So they guard this secret with their life. And one of the things that's kind of fucked up about the Dark Angels is like they'll be, so like let's say they're just fighting alongside you in like some crazy battle or whatever. Yeah, they'll be doing all that, and then like they'll hear about some fallen Dark Angels in like the next system down, and they'll literally fucking abandon you to die just to go kill those other traitorous Dark Angels because they're so paranoid about that secret getting out that it's like a thing. Okay, let me let these dogs in. I'll be right back. Come on, you two, come on. Come on. Come on. Yeah, so the Dark Angels have what the fuck? Oh, I turned that off. I was like, why can't I hear myself? I turned it off. The Dark Angels, they're super cool. They're super elite. They have a lot of secrets. You know, they have that Arthurian myth thing going on. They do have their Primarch back. So Lionel Johnson, their Primarch, just returned to the setting. I think it was over a year ago now, but it's kind of a big deal. His model's really fucking badass, and people love that. And to be honest with you, I think without a doubt they're the most interesting faction right now because the Lion has returned, and because he is different. He's aged 10,000 years. He's changed. He's actually trying to forgive the fallen, which like nobody ever thought was going to be a thing. So they're very interesting right now. They're at sort of like a weird pivotal change. You can imagine in 11th edition, they're going to get some more upgrades because it seems like Lionel Johnson is going to change how they are operating currently as a chapter, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, just in general, man, I would say, like, why did I pick the Dark Angels? I picked the Dark Angels because I love the knightly shit. Like, I love the aesthetics and the knightly shit. but also like they are kind of the best, you know, and I mean that in the sense that um like number one, they were such a powerful force during the Horus Heresy that like Horus tricked the Lion to send them away. He didn't even try to turn the Lion. He didn't think the Lion would have ever turned, and instead he just tried to like take him out of the equation. Just by raw numbers and fleet size, and the fact that the Lion was probably the best general out of all of them. They were the most powerful. But there's something about them that I find to be so cool, because like when I read their lore and shit, it's just interesting that like they fought entire campaigns and wiped out enemies of humanity before the other legions were basically even created. And so they have all this knowledge. They walked beside the emperor. They were led by the Custodes and the Imperium first, like before the other legions were even really a thing. And there's like something cool about that lineage, and they feel entitled, and at the same time I think they feel disrespected by the other legions, and they don't really trust any of them. And they're just kind of cool. Like, so that, you know, again, I'll try to keep it brief because like I don't want to get caught fanboying and you know, just gushing out about them. So let's talk about the Deathwatch. Now, Deathwatch is kind of interesting. Do you guys know anything about the Deathwatch? So if you played the Space Marine 2 game, Titus comes back from 100 years of service, of penance within the Deathwatch. Now, the Deathwatch, they're a really interesting sort of sub faction, okay? And they specialize in killing the aliens. Okay, so they're a specialized group that kills the aliens, and they will recruit different people from the different chapters out there. And then when you come to the Deathwatch, so you see how this guy and this pauldron over here, he's got the Dark Angel symbol, and then on this pauldron he's got that Deathwatch symbol. You retain the heraldry of your chapter while getting new heraldry for being a part of the Deathwatch. And man, it's such an interesting organization, and they're really cool. Yeah, it's kind of like the Wall from Game of Thrones. Yeah, like taking the Black Shield oath, except you do return to your legion after, or your chapter after a while. The Dark Angels have a really special relationship with the Deathwatch. They send their people all the time to the Deathwatch, and they gather intel on the Deathwatch, of course. Yeah, so Deathwatch is kind of cool. To be honest with you, though, they're not really like an actual faction. They're more of like a sub faction, and they don't even have really good rules right now. I think that's going to change because there's like a new Deathwatch box coming out, and it seems like there's going to be some stuff for them. But honestly, guys, we don't have to get into the details on them because I don't even think they're a viable faction right now. They might be something you think is cool and you want to gravitate towards just within the lore. There's like a really cool comic book series about Deathwatch that I think is fun. There's some fun Deathwatch animation on like Warhammer Plus, but really can't really do them as an actual faction. Next up, let's talk about the Grey Knights. The Grey Knights, man, super fucking cool, man. Super fucking cool. So they are an elite group of all wizard Space Marines. They were founded not by a Primarch, but instead by Malkador the Sigillite. Now, Malkador the Sigillite is kind of like Merlin to the Emperor. He's just like a super badass wizard, okay? And so this faction is formed kind of around the time of the Horus Heresy, and then they develop over time. They're a secret faction. Their home planet is called Titan. They recruit the best Psyker Astartes throughout the galaxy, and they know shit that the other factions do not. On the tabletop, they're really unique, really cool. A lot of teleportation, a lot of wizard powers. Yeah, man, they look super badass. They're probably gonna be my next Imperial army. I like the Grey Knights quite a bit, dude. They are super fucking fun. Another like elite army. They just got a bunch of new rules too. I'm not really sure how good or viable their new rules are. To be honest with you, I would expect there to be more Grey Knight stuff coming in the next edition. There's rumors that they're going to get what's known as like a range refresh. And there's a lot of new lore that seems to deal with them. Like there was this new Terminus Decree thing. They were heavily involved in the new Armageddon thing as they sent out a bunch of psychic signals to like recruit other Space Marines and whatnot. If you like the Knights, if you like badass wizards, if you like sort of like a secretive Black Ops group of Space Marines that are all about hunting demons, this could be your faction, dude. They are badass. Grey Knights, super, super cool. Next up, let's talk about the Space Wolves. Space Wolves, awesome faction. For a long time, they've been kind of like a meme in the community because they kind of like turn into werewolves. So remember how we talked about the Blood Angels, right? And how that thing that all the Space Marines have where they can eat a part of their enemy and get their memories, that was mutated. It resulted in the Blood Angels kind of like becoming vampires. Well, that same thing gets mutated in some of the Space Wolves, and they literally turn into like basically werewolves, right? So this is like your werewolf / Viking faction. These dudes are hard as nails, super badass. If you like Odin, Thor, those gods, the Norse gods, you like Vikings, that kind of stuff. You like just brutal savages. The Space Wolves are that faction for you. They did just get a ton of new models, which are very, very badass. And yeah, so they're a really cool faction. One of the things I like about the Space Wolves is they're definitely known as like barbarians and berserkers, and they have a lot of cool stuff within the lore, but they also have some really cool stuff that's currently going on. A lot of people think their Primarch, Leman Russ, will return to the setting, and I believe that too. I think Leman Russ could be one of the next characters that comes back to the setting. But yeah, they're pretty badass, man. Again, it's like an aesthetics kind of a thing. If you think they're badass looking, if you like that kind of Viking shit, I would go for that. Their planet is really cool. Fenris is a really cool planet, and yeah, so they have a lot of fun. They have a lot of fun things going on for them. They were close to being one of my factions. I like Viking shit quite a bit. I really like Leman Russ as a character. He seems really badass. I like the aesthetic of the models. I like the werewolf homies. Like I kind of like it all. So I think the Space Wolves are badass. And again, they used to kind of get shit on in the lore, but I think they got a little bit more respect on their name. They have the best looking Space Marine models in the entire fucking game right now, and a lot of the new lore around them is really cool. Daniel Schreiber says, I've been about Warhammer since 1993, Blood Angels, Tyranids. We got to throw down either hands or 2K match play. Here's to you, Josh. Keep going. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Nice, man. So you're a long time player, right? Or a long time Warhammer head. You know what's kind of cool, man, is so I love Warhammer, and I'm excited that to be into the hobby. One of the things that I think is interesting is I just got into the hobby like 3 to 4 years ago. I think I got curious in it like 5 years ago and then kind of took the plunge 3 years ago. Yeah, I wonder what it's like for the old heads with what it's like now. Because it's got to be such an experience, because I think a lot of the stuff that, I'm talking about right now has kind of been ironed out over time, and all of these chapters, all of these, factions all have more of an identity than ever. They all have more lore than ever. It's and they all have more players than ever. It's really interesting. So a couple other Space Marine chapters that we should talk about here. I wonder, it doesn't have the salamanders or anything in here, huh? Man, that's kind of tough. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of the other, I guess what I would call the Shattered Legions or the Shattered chapters. So the Salamanders are technically a playable army in 40K right now, but the truth of the matter is they don't have a ton of great models. They just got a new Vulcan Hestan model, which is pretty badass. Here, let me pull up what they look like. The thing that's cool about the Salamanders, guys, is they're the most badass and evil looking faction because of the gene seed. It literally makes them all look like charcoal, black skin with red eyes. Like, they look crazy. And yet, they are actually the most, like, I don't know what you would say, like, human, or like they care about humanity more than any of the other factions. Oh man, here's a cool picture of Vulcan. So you can kind of see like Vulcan there, right, with like his hammer and the red eyes. There's a good picture of him there. Salamanders are really, oh dude, yeah, this image is badass, dude. And oh dude, fuck, this looks so cool. This looks fucking cool. So here's the thing. The salamanders are badass. They like humanity. They're strong. They have dragon iconography. There's like a bunch of wyvern or dragons on their planet. Some of them actually grow like dragon bones and tusks and shit. They all have charcoal black skin, red eyes. They look fucking badass. And yet they are also one of the most honorable, best defenders of humanity. They are kind. They protect everybody. They try to help. Like, they're the nice Space Marines, you know, essentially. And they're kind of cool. The only drawback to them is, number one, Vulcan gone. Crimson Fists are the original OGs. Show them some love. Yeah, you know what's interesting about the Crimson Fist is, so the Crimson Fists, they are a successor chapter to the Imperial Fist, but they're actually the very first poster boys of the whole setting. Okay? And it's actually because when Warhammer was first being designed, they had already kind of jumped ahead in the lore and just thought of like successor chapters. They didn't even have it fully fleshed out, but they were like, oh, dude, there's going to be so many different kinds of Space Marines, so many different kinds of chapters. The Imperial Fists were just created as like a chapter and later retconned into being an Imperial Fist successor chapter. But the point is, they were actually the first poster boys. So like back in the day, it was blue Space Marines with red fists, all over all of the like box art and all of the books and everything. And then they later actually end up, they get replaced by the Ultramarines. The Ultramarines are the new poster boys. But yeah, the Imperial Fists, yeah, or Crimson Fist rather. Yeah, they were the OG poster boys. Very cool, very cool. And didn't they care a little bit more about humanity as well? I want to say they were a little bit more chill towards humanity, but maybe that's not really a important part of their lore. Anyway, back to the salamanders. Salamanders are dope. Here's the only drawback, dude. They're kind of like a shattered legion. There's not really a lot of them. They haven't rebuilt enough since the Crusade. Maybe with the Primaris they have. Also, their Primarch is gone. What's weird about that is Vulcan is a perpetual, meaning Vulcan has he can't die. You know, much like the Emperor, a lot of the Primarchs embody a different aspect of the Emperor. Vulcan is the only one that is a perpetual, just like the Emperor. So one of the reasons that, like, the Emperor lives forever on the Golden Throne, and he's basically like torn apart and rebuilt every second of every day, is because he's a perpetual. He's like Wolverine. He can't fucking die, right? So Vulcan has that power as well. What's weird about Vulcan is, though, despite being a perpetual, like, he's gone. Like, he's like not a part of the setting. And there's like this whole thing where like his sons are gathering these relics and then maybe he's going to return or whatever. But for the time being, the Salamander's range is really limited and they don't have a Primarch. And so it's like, look, from a rule of cool and from the lore, if you think the Salamanders are fucking dope, if those are your boys, go for it. But I'm just saying, like, until they get more, it's tough. I think it's a tough time to be Salamanders player out there, frankly. Like, you're probably just going to play basic Space Marine stuff, okay? So I guess next up we can talk about the Imperial Fist. The Imperial Fist, very, very important chapter in a Legion. They were really more important during the actual Horus Heresy and the Siege of Terra. So they're known for their siege warfare, okay? And their Primarch, Rogel Dorn, is like a master of siege warfare. Well, by the way, is this Pedro Cantor? Is this the man himself? Is this the Crimson Fist, Pedro Cantor? Hell yeah, there's that boy. Hey, there's that boy. Um, he's the founder, right, or the chapter master of the Crimson Fist. Anyway, so the Imperial Fist, super badass. The Rogel Dorn, I liked him because he wears gold armor like the Custodian, like he wore Custodes armor. And they're very awesome. We would not have survived the Siege of Terra without Rogel Dorn and the Imperial Fist. Issue became after the Heresy, when the legions were being split up. Like Dorn was like not about that. He almost started another civil war because he was like, dude, Rabute, like, fuck you. We're not gonna split up the legions. Eventually he decides to, and I believe he kind of fucking vanishes at that point, right? Like I'm actually not 100% sure. I know he's gone in the current setting. There's rumors that he would come back. Maybe he's missing a hand or something. Maybe somebody recovered his hand. I'm not really sure. But anyway, point is, Imperial Fist, dope. Nothing wrong with loving the Imperial Fist, and I think especially from a lore perspective, they are fucking badass. And if you just studied the Heresy, like they're awesome. But I almost got to say, like I don't know. It seems to me like it would be tough to be an Imperial Fist player right now. They don't have incredible range. You're probably just playing mostly like actual Space Marine army rules. There's nothing really like. There's not like a specialized Imperial. They're lacking flavor right now in the game. Like if I was a Fist player, like you know what's funny, Warhammer Heresy. I know you're a big Valrak fan, and I love Valrak as well. I gotta say, I think one of the reasons he's so down on 10th is because he's a Fist player. Being a Fist player in 10th has got to be pretty fucking lame, because you're basically just playing. Like you're either gonna. I've seen some people like proxy Dorn for Gilliman and play Gladius Ultramarines done in Imperial Fist style. But other than that, you're just playing Gladius Imperial Fist, and you're not really playing anything that's too cool. It would actually be probably more fun to play Templars right now than Imperial Fist. But anyway, look, that like from a lore perspective, they're fucking awesome. They're really cool, but I just don't know how fun it is to be one of their players right now in the actual game. Okay, is there any other Space Marine chapters I'm missing? I think we got them all. There's a thing in the lore too, guys, where you could make up your own Space Marine chapter. This used to be much more of a thing, but it's still a thing. You can make up your own Space Marine chapter, and there's all sorts of lore ways that you could explain this, and you could combine, some of the stuff you like about the other Space Marines if you wanted to. You could come up with your own color schemes. The White Scars. Yes, the White Scars. White Scars, super cool, man. So the White Scars were masters of like fast attack or mounted combat. And their Primarch was Jagatai Khan. The Khan is a fucking badass dude. Very, very cool character. Really, really fun. And yeah, they're really fun. So they're mostly like known as like raiders. They take a lot of either Mongolian or Eastern Asian kind of influence, a lot of their design, iconography, their heraldry. They're mostly known as fast attack boys. I gotta be honest, they have a similar thing going on with the Imperial Fist, which is like I can't imagine it be. Oh, dude, this is badass. Look at this. That's super fun. I can't imagine it being too fun to be a White Scars player right now. They just don't have a lot going on. Like, they just got a new model that was teased with a grav bike, which looked so fucking cool. But until then, it's like, I don't know. Like, I hope they get a facelift. I hope the Khan comes back, to be honest with you, because he's a really cool character. And the last we saw of him, he just like runs into the warp or whatever, I think, at the end of or runs into the webway at the end of the Heresy. So yeah, there could be more stuff coming with the Khan. I think, man, I feel bad because I do think just from like a gaming perspective, there's just not a lot of flavor in 10th edition for them right now. But there's a lot of lore. There's a lot of really cool stuff just in the hobby about the White Scars. So I would say if you gravitate towards them, if any of this kind of stuff sounds cool, like if you like any of this historical shit, or you like bikes and going fast, or you just like the white color scheme or whatever, like hell yeah, like you could go for that shit. But I would just caution that unfortunately there's just not a ton going on for them right now in the hobby. So yeah. Is there any other Space Marine chapters that I missed here? For the good guys, for the Imperials? I think that's all the basic boys, right? The Raven Guard? I mean, yes, there's like the Raven Guard and the Iron Hands. So the thing that's tough about both of those, I think they have very similar things going on to the White Scars and the Imperial Fist. The Raven Guard were more of like a sort of Shadow Force, Black Ops, Wet Works kind of a Space Marine chapter. They're pretty cool. And technically there's like the Legion of the Damned too, which is so fucking badass. We'll talk about them later. They're really cool, but I think they suffer from the 10th edition thing where there's just not a lot for them. Their Primarch's not a model. Yeah, Raven Guard are super fun. Like they're super fun. The lore's really cool. There's just not too much for them right now. Same thing with the Iron Hands. So, or Ferrus Manus's boys. Are those the Iron Hands? Am I getting this shit mixed up? Oh no! What the fuck? Who were Ferrus Manus's boys? The Iron Warriors, or were they the Iron Hands? I'm confused, dude. What is happening? It's gonna fucking drive me nuts, dude. No! Just work, you stupid piece of shit. Fucking monitor, dude. It's always something. It's always something with this goddamn streaming shit. Like I got a black screen that's like flickering here. Oh no. No, bro. Okay, I gotta try to fix this from the other side. Wait, you're not helping. Fix it. Did that fix it? I think I actually fixed it. Okay. Okay. We're okay. Are we live? Oh, we just got the Venom 3 shit. Why did it... What the fuck? They put everything over here? What the fuck? What the fuck? Yeah, Ferrus Manus, he did. Are we good? Everybody's good, right? We're all right. Yeah. Okay. What's the other one that I missed? Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, the Iron Hands, right? The Iron Hands are cool. They suffer from that shit we were just talking about, though. Like, there's just not a lot going on with them in the current setting. They're cool. They're cool, and they sort of have this thing where they think the flesh is weak. And so you'll notice that they replace a lot of their arms with like robotics or metal arms. They actually love getting into dreadnoughts, which is kind of crazy. They're cool, dude. They're metal as hell. They have really good tech priests. They're they're fucking badass, dude. Like I don't, they're cool, but I think they just don't have a ton of flavor in 10th right now. I will say that if you like that idea of like replacing the flesh with robotics and being like a little bit more techy, and then they have some really interesting successor chapters that take that to like an extreme level. They actually have chapters that dial it back as well, but yeah, the Iron Hands are cool, man. The Iron Hands are cool. Raven Guard are cool. I'm not trying to talk shit. I'm not trying to say that they aren't cool, but it's just like the fact of the matter is like they just don't have a lot of really cool shit in the lore and in the game currently. So yeah, I feel kind of comfortable just kind of leaving it there with the Imperial Space Marines. All right, let's get into the other armies of the Imperium. Then we'll get into Chaos. Then we'll get into the Xenos, okay? Warhammer Heresy says, I honestly have played Iron Hands, but with Ferris dying, GW simply forgot all about them. Manus was such a cool Primarch, and he was done dirty. He is really cool. Or he was really cool, I guess. Didn't he have, like, Necron shit, bro? Like, doesn't he have Necron, like a Necron arm or whatever? But yeah, it does seem like they've kind of been forgotten. It's a tough one, man. I mean, I don't know. I guess a lot of us players are hoping that 11th brings back a little bit more of the flavor, because that's one thing that I think 10th, although the gameplay is a lot more balanced, and I would say actually the state of the game is maybe better than ever, at least as far as what I've played, the flavor took a hit. And part of the flavor was also just for these particular armies. And when you don't get rule support and you don't get new models and stuff, like, you just kind of fall by the wayside a bit. So, okay, let's talk about the Adeptus Sororitas. Dude, this army is fucking badass, dude. So these are your battle nun waifu anime characters. They're very cool. They're very religious. They're religious zealots. And the thing that's interesting about them is they have actual miracles, and they use like the power of their faith to do crazy shit, including coming back to life, including like just giving them more advanced abilities and weapons. I think the Sisters of Battle are fucking awesome, dude. A really cool, really unique part of the Warhammer lore. These sort of sexy ass nun waifus that are very badass. They wear power armor. They're super cool, and they have living saints. So, almost like a female version of like the Templars a little bit, with the iconography and the extreme religion. Just love that fucking imagery. And then they have these living saints. So sometimes like this, I think this is Celestine right here. Somebody will die, one of them will die, and then the Emperor just literally brings them back to life and gives them even more power, and then they will smite demons and shit like that. So, very, very cool army. They play with a lot of gimmicks and shenanigans. So, miracle dice, extra benefits to their weapons, all kinds of like shenanigan type moves. They're also very heavy on artillery. So a lot of the time on the battlefield, they'll have like very cool tanks and very good transports, and their transports are crazy. So their transports will do like weird shit, like hit you and then remove cover or make other things hit you easier and shit like that. They're kind of a challenging army, I would say, in a little bit of a sense. They've been very up and downs with their rules. But the rule of cool shit is awesome. They have a really cool lore, and they're very powerful. I think some of their key units are Saint Celestine and her coming back to life, the Immolators, and all of their artillery, and then they have these Paragon war suits, dude. Like, let me see. Yeah, you need to see these things. The Paragon war suits are fucking awesome. These are these things. They're like little mechs that they all get in. And they are very powerful, very strong, very badass. And like their tanks will have like little cathedrals and shit on them. Like I like the Sisters of Battle. I think they're really cool. Um, Look at the color scheme on this army here. Very, very cool. So yeah, that's the Sisters. Next up, let's talk about the Custodes. Now, I'll try to keep this brief again because Custodes are one of my armies, and I'll gush a lot about them, and I'll just basically be like, they're the best. Wait, you gotta stop whining. You guys hear her whining, right? She's literally like, I stopped scratching her for a second, and she's like whining to get scratched and petted again. Okay, so it's like, holy shit. Okay, Custodes. Custodes, they're the personal guardians of God. I think that's the best way to say it. The Emperor made himself all kinds of super soldiers, and he made the Custodes to be his personal bodyguards. Okay, they are made like I have to go put her inside. I cannot believe this. Like, dude, if could you just chill out? Like, I know you just had major surgery and almost died, but goddamn. God damn. So the thing that's cool about the Custodes is they're an elite army. So essentially, every custodian model is like an elite from a different army. Their stats are absurd. So just on like stat checks and stuff like that, they're super fun in that regard. They have a really cool place in the lore as they're one of the first creations from the Emperor. They have a lot of his secrets in the same way Dark Angels do, with the Black Cells beneath Terra. And just, there are a lot of them that are still alive from when they walked with the Emperor, on Terra and during the Great Crusade. Yeah, I mean, I could gush about them a lot. Essentially, up until recently, they were not actually a playable faction in 40K. I think during 8th edition they became playable, and in 9th they were expanded, and in 10th, they're pretty good in 10th too. But they were a big part of the Horus Heresy. A big part of why they were never a big army for a lot of the current setting of Warhammer is because they're just bodyguards to the Emperor. Like, they're just his bodyguards. Nowadays, they leave the palace a little bit more. They go out. Gilliman is working with them a little bit more, and they're out there fighting a little bit more. So yeah, they're a playable army. They're really cool. If you like being super elite, if you like being crazy, strong, and just having awesome lore, and being the best of the super soldiers, I think the Custodes are for you. They're mostly a melee focused army. They're also one of the cheaper armies to get into. I think a 2,000 point Custodes army will run you something like $600, which is about half of most other armies. Knights and Custodes are the cheapest armies to build and play. So if you want to get into the game fairly cheaply, and maybe you're interested in them, it's a good way to go. Yeah, I'll just kind of leave it there. Trust me, I could talk about the Custodes like all day. I fucking love the Custodes. The Adeptus Mechanicus. These guys are really cool, man. They're kind of like druids for technology. They're a big cult of druid tech lords. They're similar to the Iron Hands. They replace a lot of their body with machines. They worship a god known as the Omnissiah. They're very like weird. Like, they'll do like rituals and talk to the machine spirits, like the spirits inside of the machines and shit like that. On the battlefield, they play pretty interesting. They're very fucking shooty. Usually have a million models as opposed to the Custodes. So one of the reasons the Custodes are cheap to build is because they're so elite that like a single model is worth like 50, 60, 75 points, 100 points. The Mechanicus are the opposite. Most of their stuff is so cheap that in order to field a Mechanicus army, you're going to need a ton of models. Having said that, they're pretty strong, man. Like, they're pretty strong. They're a fun specialist kind of an army. All kinds of tricks, all kinds of shooting, a lot of different options. And I think if you just like the mechanical side of the hobby, they're a great pick. They're a great pick for you. So, yeah, they're cool. I don't have much more to say about the Mechanicus, but they are badass. I get why people are really into them. Next up, the Astra Militarum, or the Guard. A lot of the OG fans will just call them the Guard. So this is the basic human troops of the Imperium. And most of the Imperial army is made up of these guys. Okay, so billions and billions of people from different planets get brought in to the Guard. Space Marines are something like 1 in a million. A Custodes is like something like 1 in a billion, as far as even a candidate for it. But Astra Militarum, basically they'll take anybody. You know what I mean? Like if you can just be a dude and hold a gun, or be a gal and hold a gun, you're good. They play really interesting. So on the table, I think one of the reasons people gravitate towards Guard or the Astra Militarum is like they kind of like the idea of just being a group of humans without like the big hulking space marines, and just feeling like an actual human army is kind of like fun lore wise. But also like they got some tricks, man, and they got some shit. And one of the things they do really well is they have a lot of smaller costed units, and they can trade really well. So meaning Custodes is an army that like doesn't trade because all of our stuff is so expensive. If we trade, we're gonna lose. And Astra Militarum is like the opposite, where they can lose a lot of smaller units that will do damage. So you could basically like think of it like this. It's almost like in terms of chess, if you had 100 pawns. Now, pawns on their own, not that great. But if you have 100 pawns, you can cover the entire fucking board and just have threats all over the place. They have a lot of options within their range. They usually lean on being very shooty. There are some really good melee units within the range, but most of the time they rely on being very shooty. I think they're for people that really like kind of the army man kind of a style, like having a bunch of tanks and just a bunch of like little army dudes on a table, kind of like the wargamer army, if you will. Guard are cool. Some of the models are really cool. Like I like that dude on the horse. I forget what that dude's name is, but that dude's awesome. But yeah, that's the Guard or Astra Militarum. Very cool. Some people like it. Some people are into it. I don't judge. Nathan says, shout out to the Lucifer Blacks, the only Guard regiment that were able to wound a Primarch. Yeah, so the Guard themselves, like one of the weaker parts for me in the lore. I'm not as interested in them. You know what I mean? But I want to learn more about them. I know there are some really cool people within the Guard lore. What's that dude's name that has the orc arm? Because he's a member of the Astra Militarum of the Guard, right? I know that dude's really cool. But yeah, this is just one of my sort of. I don't know a ton about the Guard, and I'm not super into the Astra Militarum or whatever, but I do recognize why people like them, and I definitely think they're a strong army. They've had their ups and downs, just like all the other armies, but they're cool, man. I mean, just look at this. Like, if you just like tanks and shit, like look at this. Like, imagine just rolling up to a tabletop game and you just got all these fucking tanks. Look at the size of this fucking thing. That is awesome. Yeah, these are cool, man. Oh my god, look at how many tanks this is. Holy. Yeah, it's cool. Guard are cool, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a Space Marine fanboy or whatever, but yeah, I don't know too much about them. All right, let's move on to the forces of chaos. So first up, you have your basic Chaos Space Marines, or I guess what you would call the Black Legion in a sense. These are just like the basic Chaos Marines that would all work together or not under Abaddon, I do believe. They're cool. You know what I mean? They're very cool. They have a lot of cool stuff within their range. They're like Space Marines in a lot of sense. Like you have a lot of the same stat lines for your Terminators, for your battle line units, for your Devastator squads, your Phobos units. Like the ranges are similar, but they have tricks. I think that's the biggest difference between the Chaos and the standard Space Marines is the Chaos Marines have tricks. So they'll have, maybe some psychic abilities or some really special abilities, the ability to break some of the rules, do some fun stuff like that. I know for a while there was like a squad, there was a list that was doing very well with Abaddon and a bunch of Chaos Space Marine Terminators, which is really cool. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what would necessarily like. I guess if you thought Abaddon was just cool as fuck, which I do actually think Abaddon's really cool. Abaddon used to get a lot of shit in the community. I think people have kind of turned around on him. He's basically the second in command of Horus during the Horus Heresy. And after the Horus Heresy, he becomes like the champion of chaos. And he gets basically like to the power of a Primarch, maybe even more powerful than Horus was during the Horus Heresy. And there is some really interesting shit about Abaddon. Like there's some cool stuff that has happened to him in the lore. And he's basically been crusading against the Imperium for 10,000 years since the Horus Heresy. And there's some cool options. Like the range is cool. It's a little bit of like the basic version of chaos, right? Because I think demons are a little bit more intense. Death Guard, Thousand Sons, World Eaters themselves are a little bit more intense. And they have Primarchs, which is really, really cool. But the Chaos Space Marine, the Black Shield, or the Black Legion, cool. Definitely cool. Let's move on to the Death Guard. Death Guard right now, by the way, and I think John said in Discord that he's building and painting Death Guard. John, are you in here right now? You building your Death Guard still? Abaddon, he hates chaos, but he's willing to use it to take down the Corpse Emperor. Yeah, Abaddon's really cool, man. So one of the things I will say is chaos is a side of the lore that I have not really dipped my toes into. There's a lot of other stuff I'm trying to learn a little bit better, and I'm kind of starting with the shit I know, so like the Custody stuff, the Dark Angel stuff, branching out from there. Like I'm reading like the Cypher novel right now. But chaos, I think chaos, and more than chaos, the Chaos Space Marines themselves, I think I'm going to get really into them like a year from now when I start to get into that part of the lore. Because I think it's like more nuanced and complicated than you would first assume. And it's a lot of like just wanting freedom and wanting to define your own destiny outside of what the Emperor thought everybody was used for. And that's not necessarily the same thing as like becoming a demon or, giving into chaos or whatever. So just because I have a lot of empathy for the Astartes in general, I can see how I might find chaos to be pretty interesting when I deep dive into that a little bit more. Josh, I'm going to need you to let people know who the lamest Chaos Primarch is and why it is definitely Lorgar. F that guy. I kind of like Lorgar, man. Oh, you're painting right now? That's awesome. I kind of like Lorgar, man. First of all, he's said to look the most like the Emperor, which I think is interesting. I like the idea that Lorgar was the first to turn to chaos, right? And he was the first to believe in the Emperor as a god. And then that writing that he does basically becomes the template for like the Bible of the Emperor, which is kind of ironic and fun. And I also love the idea of like when they destroyed his home city and the Ultramarines and Gilliman were there and everything. Like, I think that's such a cool part of the lore. And then the fact that like the priests of Lorgar heal Horus after he's wounded, and like that's the whole way it kind of all starts. I like Lorgar, man. Yeah, I like Lorgar. I think he's kind of cool. But anyway, Death Guard. The Death Guard it's basically the faction of Mortarion, but really it's Nurgle. Okay? So this is one of the actual direct chaos gods, right?
And Nurgle, or Grandpa Nurgle, or Papa Nurgle, is one of the Chaos Gods that has this big like realm of gardening, and he's like this god of like death and excess. Everything in the Death Guard like decays. You see how like the guts are falling out. There's like all this pus and horns and tongues, and they're all just like hideous and grotesque and all fucked up. That's because they're all basically spreading disease and all this disgusting shit, all from the Chaos God of Nurgle. Now, Death Guard currently right now in the game are actually badass, man. They're kind of busted. They might get nerfed into oblivion fairly soon, actually. Um, and they just have some really good new rules. They have Death Shroud Terminators, which I believe can deep strike within 6 and then charge you. They have the ability to like jail the opponent really, really well. Very, very strong army currently right now in the game. And as far as like the lore and the flavor of Death Guard, you'd have to be into Nurglings. You know, you'd have to be into Nurgle. If you're into, man, you know what they kind of remind me of is you remember the demon in Constantine that was all the bugs? He like fights it with that weird cricket or whatever. That's kind of like what the Death Guard are, except it's like disease and pus and all this like disgusting shit. They're a very cool faction. You know, they think they know a secret of the universe that nobody else knows. They want to turn the whole universe into a big cesspool of never-ending possibility, but it's from, you know, decay and mutation and all this gross, disgusting shit. But having said that, they're very cool to paint. They're very strong. They have a Primarch, which is pretty badass, and Mortarion is a very cool looking model. Like he's very, very fun. So yeah, that's the Death Guard. Yeah, any questions or anything about the Death God? I think we should probably move along. We gotta go fast. Thousand Sons. Oh man, I like the Thousand Sons. They're also very strong currently right now. They're all wizards, so they're like an evil version of the Grey Knights. Okay, now their Primarch was Magnus the Red. Magnus is so fucking cool, dude. Magnus is really cool. He's a big sort of like red demon looking dude. Magnus the Red. This fucking guy, one-eyed because he actually gives up one of his eyes in a ritual to try to gain all this crazy cosmic knowledge. Yes, super badass. He falls to the demon of Zeech or Tzich, depending on how you want to pronounce it. It's all these looking guys here, with all like the feathers and all these kind of like weird, you know, kind of symbols and all that kind of shit. The Marines themselves, though, this is kind of cool. Like if you look at Magnus here, they have the iconography and on a lot of the symbols of Egypt. So you can kind of see how they have all that Egyptian shit. That's their thing. You know, you can kind of see all the Egyptian shit there. Oh, by the way, here's Mortarion and the Death Guard. Like, he looks really fucking cool. You know what I mean? Here's some more Zeech demons and all that. So anyways, Magnus, super cool. His model is fucking badass. He is very, very strong. They are all wizards. They play with a ton of shenanigans. Right now, Magnus is probably the best Primarch on the tabletop. Most Thousand Sons players play Magnus. He can literally come back to life, I believe, unless I'm mixing him up with Angron, actually. But Magnus is just, dude, he's fucking crazy. He can do so much shit. He can do stuff that a lot of other Primarchs and models cannot do. So people will play him, bunch of wizards, and just have Magnus fly across the table and fuck everybody up. Dude, it's gotta be so fun to be a Thousand Sons player. Also, if you like Full Metal Alchemist, all of these guys are cursed, so they're all dust inside their armor, which is kind of badass. If you like wizards, you like the Egyptian heraldry, you know, some of that stuff. You like the look of Magnus. They're cool, man. They are a very cool chapter and Legion. They're probably a very fun army to paint and build. Like, look at this, man. I love the look of these models, dude. Like, holy shit. Looks so cool. So badass. So there you go. That is the Thousand Suns. Next up, the World Eaters. These guys look super badass. They all worship the god of corn. Now, corn is something like the berserker version of all of the chaos gods. This is Angron right here, Demon Prince Angron. And dude, they are just fucking badass. And I don't know how great they are on the table right now. Like, Angron's model is a little bit older, but I think the model's so fucking cool. Like, that's the model right there. I just think that looks so badass. They're a berserker army. I mean, I find my buddy plays a lot of corn demons in his Chaos Demons list. But I can imagine World Eaters probably still really fun on the tabletop, you know, running a lot of corn berserker style stuff. Probably really, really fun. I think they've got some fun artillery units and cool stuff like that. But I think the whole draw to being the World Eaters is Angron, you know, just being a fucking badass for corn, skulls and blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. Like, they're just heavy metal berserker type demon dudes. Just really, really cool, man. Like, your demon's demon, you know, just looking badass as fuck, dude. Like, look at this. Look at these Space Marines, dude. They're just like, holy shit, dude. They look so cool. They're so heavy metal. But yeah, that's the World Eaters. Next up, the Chaos Demons themselves. This is a really fun faction. So there's a number of ways to play Chaos Demons. You can play them within their definitive factions. So you can play like Death Guard Demons and just all run Death Guard Demons. You can play different demon host options where each individual type of demon will get interesting rules and stuff like that. You can play with Shadow Legion, which does all these weird tricks, and you use Be'lakor to like deep strike in all kinds of people. Shalaxi right now is probably one of the best demons still. She's just fucking nuts, dude. And just a bunch of really, really fun, cool demons. I got a buddy that plays Chaos Demons, and basically it came down to him saying, like, I just like the demons. I don't identify with any of the Primarchs. Like, he didn't really care for the Traitor Primarchs or those demons. He doesn't and didn't really fuck with the Chaos Space Marines. He just thought the demons themselves were really fucking cool. And it's mostly like, you know, you got smaller versions, so there's like smaller little demon units, but a lot of the time you play what's known as like Monster Mash, and so you play like a ton of really big demons. And right now on the tabletop, they're actually doing pretty well. They've kind of hung throughout the entire thing as pretty good, lately pretty good to really good. They teleport around a lot, and basically, like, you just drop your big ass demons. They're very hard to kill. They slaughter things. It's a hard army to deal with, you know. Hard army to deal with, but very cool nonetheless. Also, why didn't they talk about knights here? Let me briefly just talk about knights. Okay, so the knights are like the mech warriors of Warhammer, and there's Imperial knights and there's Chaos knights. They are these massive fucking machines, like way bigger than dreadnoughts, and they're cool, man. Like, so they have like actual pilots as opposed to a dreadnought. They have a very, like, how do I explain this? They're cool. Like, they have houses. It's very like Game of Thronesy. It's an honor to pilot one of these knights. They're kept in the family for generations. These families become very powerful within the Imperium. They're badass. And then, you know, during the Horus Heresy, some of them turn to Chaos. They become Chaos Knights, which are like basically the same thing except fucking mutated. You know, mutations, all kinds of horns and bullshit. Look at this one's right here with all the tendrils and whips and shit like that. Very cool. Very cool. So the Knights are badass. Knights are a relatively cheap army to get into because you just need like 4 or 5 models basically, and so very similar to Custodes. And they're also a cool thing to include whether you go Chaos Space Marine or regular Space Marine, because they can be used as an allied unit for any one of those armies. Knights are really interesting. I'm actually looking forward to getting more into the lore surrounding them as I get a little bit more into the game. So anyway, that's basically your Imperial Chaos Space Marines. Let's talk about the Xenos, man. Let's talk about the aliens. Eldar or Eldari. Man, these guys are fucking cool, man. These guys are fucking cool. They're very powerful in the game. I think their models are awesome. And you basically have a split between the Craft World Eldar and the Dark Eldar or the Drukhari. The Eldar are like your basic high fantasy elves, except all of them are very psychically powerful. At one time, they ruled the entire galaxy. They were the biggest faction. They all became gooners, and they all fell into hedonism, and they literally created Slaanesh. So they created a whole new army of chaos, which, by the way, where are the fucking Emperor's Children? What is this thing? Where did I find this? Where's the Emperor's Children? They don't even have the Emperor's Children in here. What the hell? Yeah, Emperor's Children. What the hell, man? The Emperor's Children, they are the ones that worship Slaanesh. Fulgrim is their Primarch. He's very badass. He turned into a demon. He looks like this now. He's fucking badass, dude. His model is incredible. They're like, they seek perfection, a lot of wizardry, a lot of gooners. They're very strong right now in the game. Very, very strong in the game. They have like the Noise Marines, which literally use sonic weapons to hurt the enemy. They have Lucius the Eternal, who's like an absolute badass. Yeah, they are very cool. Emperor's Children is cool. I love their color scheme. They're very powerful. Yeah, they're badass, man. I don't know what is this website? Why doesn't it have Emperor's Children? Anyway, back to the Xenos. The elves. They're fucking badass, dude. Very powerful, very graceful. There was they created a chaos god. Some of them kind of like went their own way and they repress their psychic abilities, and they're very like practiced and more chill. Those are like the Craft World Eldar. And then some of them went the other way and they're like horrible torturers and masochists, and they do all sorts of fucked up stuff so that Slaanesh is pleased with them and doesn't eat their soul. They're very cool, man. They've had their ups and downs, but they're usually in the upper power scale within the game. At the start of 10th, oh my god, they are fucking strong. They have like a lot of movement shenanigans, really good stratagem, really good rules, a very elite army where almost all of their figures are very elite stat lines and everything like that. That is the Eldari. Talk about the Harlequin. The Harlequins are very badass. They're like these dancing, performing masters of swordplay. And I believe they worship what is known as the laughing god, I believe. And they're some of the most powerful warriors in the entire setting. A very unique look as well. But yeah, they're very, very badass. The Eldar are very cool. Here's what I'll say. Any and every faction that we talked about tonight, we could drill down in so much detail. Like, that's what Warhammer is, right? But we're just kind of going over the broad strokes here. And I'm kind of trying to just give people, like newer people, maybe something to think about or grab onto, because I do think they're really badass. Speaking of the Dark Eldar, here's the Drukhari or the Dark Eldar. So, you know, a bit of that sort of chaos flavor in some of like the tusks and the iconography, still maintaining the Eldar look. But dude, just very badass. I mean, if you like dark elves from any kind of fantasy, you'll probably like the Drukhari or the Dark Eldar quite a bit. And they're very brutal. They're very badass, very strong. So they are cool. Next up, we'll talk about the Tyranids, man. Tyranids, kind of an interesting faction. They're a horde army. They're a swarm army. and they're all big old eldritch monsters. There's smaller units too. There's like smaller eldritch monsters and little like termagants and stuff like that too. Um, they're very fun, man. I would say from a painting perspective, they're really interesting to paint. A lot of different painting schemes you could do with them. A lot of different surfaces and details, and the bone work and just some of the ribbing and stuff is really fun. It's really cool for the Tyranids. They definitely they're a tougher army to play because they're very swarmy. You have a lot going on, a lot of models on the table, and a lot of different ways to play them. They've had their ups and downs. They're not too strong right now in this setting, although there are some strategies with them that are really interesting. They're one of the most fun armies to play against, in my experience, because there's just so many of them, and you just get to kill a bunch of them. It's super cool. So yeah, I mean, they're kind of like mindless, hive mind, eldritch, insect horror kind of a thing. Very cool, kind of unique to the setting. I don't really have too much more to say about them. There's like zero lore on them other than the fact that they're actually probably the greatest threat in the galaxy. And they might have consumed entire galaxies outside of our own. But we don't really know too much about them, other than that. And they're just like sort of a consummate threat in the galaxy that will occasionally, really fuck shit up. The G-Sealer cults are an extension of the Tyranids. Basically, the Gene Stealers are like these mutant versions of Tyranid human hybrids, and they'll like land on a planet, and over time they'll become more successful at creating like thinking intelligent beings that look human, and then they'll like infiltrate the structure of a planet and take over and prepare it for consumption for the Tyranid hive fleet. They're different than the Tyranids because they like use weapons. They have more intelligence. They have some cool rules. They're very swarmy as well, but they do have some power units. They're a fun faction. I don't know. Maybe in the same sense that Chaos players would maybe play Chaos Space Marines and then start to build some demon stuff for allies. Maybe you see the same thing with like Tyranids and Gene Stealer cults. I don't know. I'm not too into the Gene Stealers, but I can see why some people like them, and they are a powerful army, for sure. Leagues of Votann. They're relatively new. In fact, I think they're the newest faction to the setting. They are basically the old squats or old ancient humanity that went out into the stars a long time ago and kind of evolved on its own. They're also like dwarfs, so they're the dwarfs of the setting. They have a lot of fun technology because unlike humans, they're not afraid to advance their technology. They do a lot of fun mining stuff. They just got some really cool new units. Like they got that guy that is facing down all the Tyranids, which is pretty cool. Votann. See if they'll pull up this guy. That guy's cool. They're good, man. They're fun. I think they're interesting. I would like to know more about like their actual lore. Their range, though, has been getting a lot of upgrades recently, and you just can't deny that. Like they're actually doing pretty well at tournaments. They have pretty good range. They're getting new models more and more. It seems like GW is actually paying attention to them as a faction, which is kind of wild. But yeah, I don't really have too much more to say about them. They're like the dwarfs of the setting, and they do have cool tech. They got little like mech dudes and a lot of fun tanks and some Star Wars looking homies. Like I like this, dude. Look at this thing. Look at this big old battle tank here. Very cool. Yeah, they're cool. They're cool. The Votann. The Necrons. Look at how badass these guys look, man. So the Necrons are super cool. They, they have like a dynasty caste system. Most of them are like mindless automatons. The rulers or the more advanced Necrons maintain some of their personality. They're immortal, but they don't have a soul. So a long time ago, they made a deal with the Catan to become immortal and have these metal bodies. They lost their souls, but gained immortality and knowledge. Yeah, they're very powerful. So in the game, they're known for like regeneration. So you can kill a bunch of them, and then they'll just regenerate models. Very, very powerful. They can just shoot the shit out of you. Their Overwatch is crazy. Their weapons are incredibly advanced. Necrons are a serious problem. They are a serious problem on the table. A very, very strong army that's doing pretty well right now. I think their models look fucking incredible, dude. Like, honestly, I feel like Necrons are just one of the coolest armies in the game, just based off their models, just based off their range. Their lore is really cool. Their technology is far more advanced than basically anything in the Imperium. I think they're probably fun to paint and build. They're probably really fun to play. Like, it's probably really fun to just roll well and bring all your models back. Yeah, Necrons, super badass. Talk about the orcs. Orcs are badass, man. One of the most fun and unique aspects to the Warhammer lore. Just like in a lot of other fiction, they're more, less intelligent, more fighty type dudes. But in Warhammer, the orcs are pretty cool because they have sort of warp-like metaphysical powers where some of the stuff they believe manifests in actual reality. Like, for instance, they think red and flames make their cars go faster. And so it actually does. Orcs are also really interesting as they get larger and larger, the more battle prowess they gain. And the more that happens, they can become like a warlord and start a whole warg. And so a lot of orcs will die in battle young, but if they don't, they get bigger and bigger, which is kind of cool. Yeah, they're fun, man. You know, they just want to fight. They're in it for a good scrapping. They're very, very powerful, very resilient. Unfortunately, right now they're kind of getting shit on in the game. They had a brief moment where they had one of the best detachments in the game, and it was so busted that they got nerfed into oblivion. And I actually don't think they've recovered from that very well. Their range is incredible. The lore is super fun. I think painting them and fielding them is probably so cool. They also have this thing where in their rules, they have like a once per game thing called a WOG. And you literally scream like, WOG! And so it's always fun when you're at a Warhammer tournament or just playing at a shop and you hear an orc player yell WARG. Just kind of like a fun little part of the whole thing. They're really cool. I think they're going to get to be a big part of the next edition. They might even be more involved in like live action stuff. Yeah, they're super fun, man. They're super cool. They talk in funny accents. All they want to do is do some crumping. They're cool. They're a cool part of the lore. The Tau, another newer part of the lore. They're this highly advanced species, or I guess it's a group of species. And the Tau are really awesome. I like the Tau a lot. They have really advanced technology. They've advanced to the point of the Imperium and actually faster than the Imperium in only about 11,000 years, which is crazy. Most of them are these little blue fish people, and they have a caste system that is called the Greater Good. And yeah, so they have this like sort of social caste type system, and everybody has a purpose, everybody has something to do, but it's also mandatory, and it's kind of actually mind control from these things known as the Ethereals. This guy right here, Commander Farside, is actually leading somewhat of a civil war amongst the Tau, because basically what happened was he was in a battle away from the Ethereals, like all the Ethereals died, and he started to actually think for himself, and he realized that all the Tau are being mind controlled by the Ethereals. But having said that, most of the Tau Empire is still under the control of the Ethereals, and they still use the Greater Good. They're very shooty, so they play really interesting on the table. Most armies have very good shooting and a very good fighting phase. Like, fighting is a huge part of the game, charging and fighting. The Tau are a little bit different. They play mostly shooting, and they actually want to like sort of hide and shoot. And it's usually very effective. They're struggling a bit right now, like, I'll be honest. They're struggling a little bit right now in the meta. And I think they just need a little bit of help because they did get some rules changes which were good, but it didn't quite fix them enough to be able to fight against some of the best armies in the game. If you like just super big mech, sort of anime-inspired battle suits and crazy las cannon weapons, and then they do have these guys, the Kroot. uh, who do the melee heavy lifting for the army. They're pretty cool. I think the tower really fun, man. The tower really fun. From a lore perspective, they're very fun. The Imperium has worked with the Tau a couple of times. Like Gilliman, I think, is open to working with the Tau a little bit more than other alien Xeno races. You know, they are maybe more of a good guy faction. Kind of depends on how you look at it. I think Commander Farsight is fucking awesome. Commander Shadow Sun is very awesome. The big mechs and the shooty style of the game is very fun. What drew me to the Tau Empire? I just like mechs, dude. Like I've always liked Gundam and shit like that. So I just think the battle suits, like the Crisis battle suits, are probably still one of the coolest things in Warhammer. Because so basically my buddy was building Tau, but he's just fallen out of the game. He hasn't played in years, so he's gonna sell me a lot of his Tau like on the cheap. So I'm probably gonna get a lot of Tau stuff pretty cheap, and I'm gonna get a Commander Farsight because I think this model is so fucking cool. So I want to paint up a grimdark Commander Farsight who actually uses a demon sword, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I think the tower cool, man. I just like the shooty, man. I like the mechs. Kalisto, thank you for the $10 holla. Says thank you so much for doing this stream. Hope it's not the last, because remember, only in death does duty end. Oh no, it won't be the last. This is like the way I think of it, man, is like I'm building a lot of content, right? And I spent a lot of today working on Marvel content, some DC content, and we're gonna have a good stream tomorrow. And I'm cooking some big Warhammer videos that are more produced, and I want to do more produced content as well. But I figured, like, why not? Like, we can just do some casual streams. You know, it's been a couple hours of us just kicking it and talking about all the Warhammer shit. I'd like to open it up to questions and just see if you guys have any questions or comments or anything like that. But yeah, we'll keep doing more Warhammer stuff. This is for like a subsect of the Den of Nerds community that is Warhammer curious. Yeah, no. Hell yeah. Dude, I think this model is so fucking cool. And then we could look at Far Sights. Like some of the ways people paint up their Farsight. Oh my god, look at this, dude. He looks fucking badass. Like that's a really cool looking one there. Look at this one, dude. Holy shit. People do some really cool shit with their Tau. I like this too. This grim dark worn look, dude. Yeah, like this is. I might try something like this with mine. Oh my god, dude. Grimdark Tau are fucking badass. Holy, dude. Like, look at this, man. Oh my god. Yeah, they look really cool. Grimdark Robotech. Exactly. If I remember right, the warp makes entities of things that people worship, right? So people worship the Emperor as a god. There be a warp version of him. Yeah, kind of. I mean, a lot of people think so. What exactly is going on with the Emperor is like a mystery, but he's clearly gotten a lot more powerful. Some people think it's because of all the worship. It could be that. It could be the Great Rift is opened up and more power is like pouring in from the warp into him. It could be that his soul is just maturing and getting more powerful in the warp. Um, yeah, there's a lot of really cool possibilities with that for sure. Oh, really? The OG art is pretty cool. A lot of the OG art, like Warhammer's kind of interesting in the fact that like, and I actually had we didn't end up using it, but I brought in my ultimate guidebook, and then I have the Art of Warhammer book here, which like, dude, the scan quality and like the art here in this Warhammer book is so cool. But let me see if there's any Tau Johns in here. There's a lot of Astra Militarum stuff at the end. So cool. Bunch of guard stuff. Orcs. Eldar. Tau, here we go. Bro, like... Oh, man. Let me see here. So you're saying some of the OG art, huh? Okay, that's Necron. So this is kind of like what they look like, the main homies. So they're kind of like blue fish people. Kind of interesting. Ah, man, that can't be it. That's all the Tau shit they got in here? No way. That's disrespectful. No way. I mean, that is pretty badass, but like... That, dude, they do not have a lot of Xenos art in here. I'll be real. I guess that's pretty Warhammer, but still. A fucking 2 pages of Tau art? Can you imagine being a Tau fan and buying this book? Holy shit. Oh my god. Just 2 fucking pages of Tau art, dude. I'm not even kidding. What the fuck? No way. There's gotta be more. And wow, maybe not. Okay. Okay. That's a little crazy. That art book is dope. It is. It's really cool. It's really cool. And I have an appreciation for the old art. I think what I was trying to say is Warhammer's kind of interesting in that there's like this older kind of style that was like, I don't know, a little bit more hardcore maybe. And I appreciate it, but I also appreciate the modern stylings. Like, I like how the Warhammer art has evolved. This is cool as fuck. Oh my god. So yeah, any questions, any thoughts, guys? Anybody in here leaning towards any army or anything? Did this help you guys at all? Oh, it is? Oh, that's cool. Send that to me on Discord. Send me the a scan of that. How often are new editions published? So it seems like about every 3 years. So 11th edition will probably start being previewed next year and maybe come out end of next year or maybe early 2027. And I think 11th is going to be very good. I think now is a great time to jump on. I think 11th will be a lot like 10th. So you don't have to worry too much about like learning a bunch of new rules and shit. My buddy has a Storm Surge too. I'm getting a Storm Surge. Pretty excited about that. I like these Crisis battle suits too, dude. Yeah, the tower are cool. The tower cool. Did you do the Iron Warriors? I think you skipped them. I think we talked about... Well, no, I don't think we did talk about the Iron Warriors. You know, to be honest with you, like, I don't know shit about the Iron Warriors. They were traitors, right? The Iron Hands and the Iron Warriors are different. I don't think I know shit about the Iron Warriors. Were they the Siege Boys? Yeah, Perturabo's boys. Okay, yeah. Yeah, they're not really doing shit right now, aren't they? Like, I feel like they fall into the same category as, like, the White Scars. And I mean, they're cool. Perturabo's really interesting. Without Perturabo, they would not, like, Horus would not have done shit, basically. But I don't really think they have too much going on currently, right? Like, what do you run if you run them in Warhammer right now, like in 10th? Are they... Oh, the Alpha Legion, of course. But again, you can't even really run the Alpha Legion, right? Look, the Alpha Legion is fucking dope. Okay? So the Alpha Legion is, like, all subterfuge. Each one of them calls themselves Alpharius. You never know who is who. And I guess we didn't talk about the Night Lords either. But, fuck. What else did we miss? We missed the Night Lords. We talked a little bit about the Night Haunter on accident. Conrad Kurz. They use, like, terrorism and shit. They use, like, terrorism. We don't truly know if they're loyal or traitor. Oh, you mean, like, now in the current setting? That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, they're pretty cool though. They're pretty cool, man. Oh shit, I like this guy. I like this look of this that version of Commander Farsight. This is Shadow Sun here. Shadow Sun's also badass, man. I can't wait to paint up Shadow Sun. Yeah, yeah. The Alpha Legion is loyal and traitor. Yeah, so they're technically traitors, but they said that they were being traitors because it would ultimately help the Emperor. Like, it's weird. They're a weird faction, bro. But yeah, I think that's what it was, is like they were traitors on purpose to act like it was a reverse Uno card thing. Which is like, okay. From what I understand, there was basically like nothing to the Alpha Legion much at all. And then I forget what book it was, but there was one book written, and I think it was Dan Abnett, and he literally like just filled out and fleshed out their lore to the point that like now everybody thinks they're super cool. So I probably have to read that to know exactly what that is. I like this grimdark version, especially of these little guys. I'm not crazy about this, but these guys look cool. What the fuck is this, dude? This looks so cool. This like shield. I like these shields with like the bullets and the bolters getting stuck in. That is, but oh my god, dude, look at this. Holy shit. Yeah, I like this. I like Grimdark Tau, man. That is cool. Make me a 1,000-point army by adding my ultimate starter setup, please, lads. I don't know what's in the ultimate starter, unfortunately, but yes, Josh, join the greater good. I think I'm going to. Man. Plus, I like shooting stuff. So, I could be a shooty boy. I could be a shooty Tau boy. Space Dwarves, yeah, they're cool. Do you have a Sisters of Silence squad with your custodians? I actually need to get more Sisters of Silence. I only have one. I have, what's her face? The named one that comes with Valyrian. I forget her name. She's fucking awesome. But yeah, I got to get a couple squads of Witch Seekers or whatever they're called. Night Lords have pretty good book series. Yeah, I'm really interested in the Night Lords. That's going to be a Chaos faction that I'm really interested in checking out. To be honest with you, I'm really enjoying the Cypher book. And I know Cypher's, a traitor. And then I need to read the Luther book. I've not read the Luther book. But, people are telling me within the Dark Angels community, like the Luther book is a tough read because apparently he makes a lot of sense. And so it's kind of tough. Lion Son of the Forest is a great book. That book is dope. Yeah, I like the Cypher book so far. I'm about halfway through it. We're halfway there. Living on a prayer. Anyways, guys, I'm going to get on out of here because I want to go watch Alien Earth. Man, we got a lot to talk about tomorrow, too. A lot to talk about tomorrow. We got Doomsday stuff. We got some DC stuff. Maybe even some Spider-Man's stuff, man. We got stuff, dude. We got some stuff. Brainiac, what the fuck? That shit is crazy. Hey, thanks, brother. Appreciate you guys. Oh man, if you're on the Discord too, check out the Warhammer section, man. I posted some of my snipers, my eliminators. Oh my god, bro, they're so good. They're so cool. Can you tell me why the Grey Knights think they can do anything against the Custodes? And tell me about Valdor. Does he really have blanks? Yeah. He's got blanks. He's got Grails. He's got winged mutated blood angels. He's got other Custodes. Valdor's got some shit as the King in Yellow. As far as the Grey Knights, why do they think they can do the Custodians? Well, two things. So I apparently the original version of the Terminus Decree, which was that like virus that can kill people, it can be genetically modified. So you could technically maybe literally kill all the Custodians with that, maybe. Also, Malkador clearly had some tricks. So maybe they have like a backdoor portal into the throne room. Maybe Malkador had a way to remove the Custodians. Like, I don't really know. It's hard to there's no like if you just look at what we currently know, I see no reason to think the Grey Knights would be able to do anything against the Custodians, especially with the Sisters of Silence. But if maybe they have like some tricks up their sleeve. Malkador was very powerful. Like, dude, Malkador could have killed Horus. You know what I mean? Like, he was fucking choke slamming him and shit. Like, Malkador is kind of like an Emperor Palpatine. Like, he was very powerful. So, if Malkador thought that was what was needed, he would have had a way to try to figure it out. That's all I'll say. Yeah, appreciate you guys, man. Thank you. Yeah. We'll do it. We're gonna make a bunch of content about it. Faux show. Valdor is a fascinating part of the lore. I think the King in Yellow stuff is, I mean, it's to me it's like the most interesting stuff. But that's currently going on. But yeah, we'll see. There's more stuff to come. All right, everybody. Much love, man. Thank you guys for being here. Yeah, just a fun casual stream. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Ta-ta for now.